Hey y'all, in my last beat video I started with a drum and bass track, and I thought today it might be fun to start with a guitar track because in music there's an infinite amount of ways to go about doing anything. So before we get started, I just wanted to say two great examples to listen to. One is Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe by Centric, which is just the same two chords the whole song. And then the other is Surf by Mac Miller, which is four chords in a really straightforward rhythm. So we're gonna be going for something like that today, nothing too crazy as far as like all these jazzy chords, just something that's grooving and sounds good. So let's get to it. I was just messing around a little bit and came up with something I like, so let's lay it down. So as I mentioned in the last video, you're just hearing the laptop speakers right now, but at the end I will bounce the track out so you can hear it how it's supposed to be. I don't have all my gear with me like I'd said, but even when I do, I never really had the piece to connect your phone to the interface. So we'll just hear that for now. I think the next logical step is the drums. As much as I want to add all the fun textures, I think the drums will help lock in everything else. And I definitely hear just some snaps for the first 4 bars, and then maybe the drums coming in strong after that. I do have a mic with me, but I'm feeling kind of lazy, so I'm not gonna record the snaps. I also don't have a great room to do it in. There's not a whole lot of like stuff to dampen the sound in here. But the downside of that is you have to search through Logic to find a snap that sounds good, which is harder than you think. I mean, listen to this. Have you ever heard a snap that sounds like this? I'm gonna play the drums that I put in and talk about it afterward. So it's feeling pretty good. I got the pocket going in there, and I really should have brought my drum pad on this trip. I'm traveling and trying to keep it light, but the drum pad is like, not even a foot by a foot, so I could have definitely fit that. It's just so tedious trying to do this with the Logic's musical typing because it tracks every single note as the same velocity, which, as I mentioned in the last video, isn't realistic for a human drummer. So I had to go in and make some changes. I didn't record it all, obviously, because it would have just been boring and too much to see, but I will say that each step I kind of tracked individually. So I did the kick and snare, and then I did some hi-hat stuff, and then I actually put in like a tambourine that's supposed to actually, it kind of works more as the hi-hat than the hi-hat does because it's a little more consistent on the 16th notes or 8th notes. So I'm gonna track some bass now, and I'm actually gonna use the keyboard that's here and use the bass sound that's on there, which I'm sure a lot of producers will be rolling their eyes because it's not always the best sound. And trust me, I would love to put some juicy bass guitar on this, but I don't have one with me. And Logic's bass sounds can be a little weird too. So we're just gonna try it on the keyboard and get what we can. All right, now we're at the part where we can add some fun textures. We got all the basics and the groove laid in. And, with something like this where the guitar is playing something that's really dense harmonically and melodically, it's doing that line, da, 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 da da da. So just like the way that the voice leading with the chords worked out, there's kind of a melody in there. So I'm gonna keep it real sparse with the piano, but I found something that I think will work. And that piano track is actually kind of in the mid register, which I feel like you wouldn't always think to go there because usually chords are taking up that register and you don't really want to mess with that. But since the guitar is playing the melody that's kind of higher, I think it fits in there nicely. So I'm hearing one more texture in here, and I hear it so specific because I do this a lot. But I'm just hearing one note almost like on an organ or something similar that's just going to sustain through all the chords. So it's got to be a note that works with all those chords. And I'm hearing la, which is like an A flat, which the key that this is in is A flat minor. And that note, I believe, will work over all these chords. And since this is the last thing I'm going to add, I'm just going to put the bounced out track on top of this so you can hear everything. But I went through some of the synths in Logic and just couldn't find what I was looking for. I have a Korg mini log at home, and that thing, I can just get whatever sound I want after messing around for a little bit. But anyway, so I'm going to use the string setting on the keyboard here and maybe try to mess with it in post and like just mix a little bit so it doesn't sound like some corny strings. And I'm just looking for like a long sustained note and just in a texture that feels good for me. So here's the final beat. So there it is, beat number 2. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm relearning production in a way with less gear. I think my main feedback is just that the drums are really hard to do with Logic's musical typing. And I know they also have like a sequencing option called pattern regions. But you know, you run into some of the same issues where it's all quantized perfectly, it's all the same velocity, so it sounds like a robot, and you gotta have a little bit of weirdness or grit in there if you want it to sound human and groove and make it vibe, but we're gonna keep trying.